Let me start with this. A lot of you guys are probably wondering by now, who am I? Why am I making all these long form videos? Why do I care so much about the workstation? The comments I've seen on my channel are extremely telling about what, you know, people want. Why do I care so much about the OASYS, Chronos, and Nautilus? Why do I get so defensive when people are making baseless comments about Nautilus, regarding its control surface? Why am I so adamant about making the argument that you don't need the control surface if you truly understood the Nautilus interface? And that's just one example, right? For those of you who have seen a lot of my videos, long form, who have seen my videos all the way to the end, you're probably wondering, why do I care so much? It's because I get frustrated when I see companies abandon ideas that once changed the world, or at least had the capacity to. See, my answer really has, it doesn't so much have anything to do with keyboards or, you know, what have you, right? It has to do with what these keyboards represented. Let me tell you a story that really kind of sets the tone for my passion for these instruments. When I was a kid, and by kid, I mean around 11, 12 years old, I had a PSR 320 Yamaha. I'd taken piano lessons for a few years, you know, in 93, 94, around there. And, you know, and I started off with a PSR 11, 49 full size keys. It was made in 1986. It was a very primitive entry level keyboard, right? Based on FM technology. The drums were entirely synthesized. It was cool for what it was. I didn't know anything. So obviously it was going to sound good to me. And I played it all the time. And when I started taking piano lessons around that time, I fell in love with the keyboard. I just fell in love with music in general. I loved being able to play. So when my dad, he was living in Arizona at the time, my dad bought this new Yamaha. It was like around 96. And goes to the music store, buys this keyboard, pays about $300, $400 for it. And what struck me unbelievably was how good this keyboard sounded. It was a Yamaha PSR 320. Had a big screen on it. It was really cool. The styles at the time sounded fucking incredible, right? I had this thing for about 2 years and I loved every second of it. And then one day, uh, I think it was about a year later. Yeah, it was about a year later. At this point, I've had it for almost a year. My dad gave it to me because I loved it so much. And, you know, I played it all the time. One day we're in Arizona and it gets hot in Arizona. It gets really hot. Dry heat, but super hot nonetheless. I would take the keyboard to camp. My dad would take me to the summer camp, drop me off there, and what have you. So one day I take the keyboard there, you know, so I have it and I can play it and what have you. Well, unbelievably, we were going on a field trip and I had no idea. We pop it in the car and we, when we get home, we take the keyboard inside and the whole front panel of the keyboard got warped. I mean, it got hot inside that car. I couldn't believe it. I didn't notice it right away, but I got so upset. And so we take it back to the store. Mind you, we've had it for almost a year. We take it back to the store, and the guy's like, "Well, we're not gonna, we're not gonna take it back unless it's repaired." And my dad's like, "Well, if I if I bring it back, I want the better model." And at the time, the better model was the 520. And so they had the 420 with the guide lamps and all that, but the 520 was the one to get, honestly. And I remember playing it, and I couldn't believe how much better it sounded because of the effects and all that. Same sound engine, same AWM stuff, but way more polished, better samples, right? Um, Effects that the 320 did not have whatsoever, and what have you. I couldn't believe how much better it sounded. And the feature set was incredible compared to the 320. There wasn't a massive difference though, in terms of like how the keyboard operated. The operation was largely the same, but that sound was fucking phenomenal in the 520. If I had a 520 today, it would still sound incredible. And we never got the 320 fixed. So what happens is I'm begging my family, my mom, my dad, my aunt, what have you, to get me this keyboard that's $500. And surely enough, on one fateful day, after months of begging, my late rich uncle comes into town. And I was like, I'm just going to ask him. I'm tired of begging my mom or my dad to get this for me when they were refusing to. And I'm just going to ask my rich uncle. Sure enough, he says, okay. My birthday had passed, and my birthday had just passed. And surely enough, we get it the very next day. From the 520 that I had it for about a year, just like the 320. And mind you, I loved every second of it. When I first got it, just like the 320, I loved every second of it. And I had both at one point. I was able to use MIDI them together. I mean, this is how I learned about MIDI. But one thing I noticed about the 520 was, if you saw my last video on arrangers, chord recognition, it was much, much, much better on the 520. And full keyboard mode was also incredible. And so I could actually play fifths and fourths on the 520 in full keyboard mode. And that blew my mind too. And there were certain styles that really made the 520 shine much in much better ways than the 320 ever did. But as time went on, I realized I couldn't create on the 520. I had 3 tracks of recording, an accompaniment track, and 3 actual recording tracks. I couldn't record. I couldn't make my own styles. The tracks had no editing capability, no quantization, nothing. What you recorded was what you got. And my timing wasn't very good at the time. And I got frustrated. The more I worked with the 520, because it was all I had, the more frustrated I got. And it hindered my creativity. I wanted to write and I couldn't. And this was my first time ever wanting to write. I knew I had the ability. I took piano lessons. I knew how to play. I've been composing and making music from day fucking one on the piano. The moment I learned how to actually play those keys and what those notes are, it's almost like I was able to fill in the blanks. Don't ask me how. But I started experimenting with chords and melodies and all that. And I was writing my own stuff on the piano. I didn't like taking piano lessons because I didn't want to play other people's music. I didn't want to read music, even though I sort of knew how to read. I wanted to write and play and do whatever I wanted. And the reason I loved keyboards so much and still do today is because of the wide range of sounds keyboards give me, the ARPs, the styles in an arranger. I started off with an arranger, mind you, right? The 320 was a home arranger keyboard. So was the 520. So what happens next? I'm frustrated with the 520. I need more. And in 1998, I hear about the PSR 8000. I go to the music store and I play it. I could not believe its sound. The PSR 8000 to this day is one of the best keyboards Yamaha's ever made, bar none, period. End of story. No question. Absolutely one of the best. Because the 8000 had a certain sound and workflow to it that absolutely blew my mind. I'll never forget playing it in the music store. And I was like, holy crap, this thing sounds incredible. I was laughing because it sounded so incredible. It made me laugh. It excited the hell out of me. I have a smile on my face right now because just I'm thinking about it like it was yesterday. It was one of the most memorable moments. But we weren't rich. We couldn't afford a two, $3,000 instrument. We left home without it. I'm 13 years old and I'm crying my eyes out. And my mom starts laughing at me, thinking it's ridiculous that I'm crying over a keyboard. But this is how passionate I was even back then, especially back then. I just saw a keyboard that changed my life when I played it. I never saw keyboards the same way ever again. So what happens? A year passes, you know, another year passes. I'm stuck with the PSR 520 for another year. I hated every second of it. Then my dad says, well, if you pass your classes, I was in middle school. If you pass all your classes, I wasn't the best at school. Most of us musicians aren't. I'm just, and I'm not saying that in any sort of insulting way because I wasn't good at school, but trust me, if you're a musician, chances are you didn't like school. You really didn't. And I know I didn't. I hated the homework. I didn't really care about my grades all that much. It didn't matter then. It sure as fuck doesn't matter now. But my dad said if I passed all my classes, I would, he'd buy me the keyboard I wanted. And so I wanted the 8,000, but then I saw the PSR 740. And let me tell you, 740 was incredible. That was the next level up from the 8,000. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing on the 740. If the 8,000 was incredible, imagine how incredible the 740 sounded when it came out a year later. It was mind blowing, like absolutely, truly mind blowing. Four variations per style, the dual screen. It was a phenomenal keyboard, and it still is to this day. So, sure enough, I passed my classes. I graduate middle school, going from eighth grade to ninth grade. And my brother gets furious. My brother's 7 years older than me. He was furious. He was like, why would you get him this keyboard? He's going to get tired of it, you know, after a year or two. And I didn't see that at the time. But now looking back, I saw how right he was. So he said, look, we have to take this back. We have to take this back. I'm going to put some money down. We'll get him a graduation gift, and we'll get him a Triton. Now, mind you, I was reluctant at first because I was used to the styles. I was used to all I wanted to do was lay down some tracks and create, right? And I love the idea of having an arranger because when I learned the extended chords that the 520 had and recognized that the 320 did not have, I I was like, holy crap, I could do more, right? And I noticed how much better styles sounded because of those that extended chord recognition. You know, now every Yamaha keyboard does this, every single one. But at the time, there were certain models that you know that were more basic in the chord recognition, and then there were and the higher end models recognized, the nines, the 11s, in some cases the 13s, what have you. And so what's really crazy is the Triton didn't have any of those features. You had dual ARPs, and when I went to the music store at the time, they were like, let's get you a Triton. My brother's like, let me get you a Triton. Let me get you an actual professional keyboard so you can actually create music. Again, I was reluctant because I was used to the styles. But I gave in. I cried because I didn't want to let the 740 go. But I was like, okay, fine. Let's do it. My brother wouldn't let up. And what happened next changed my life forever. Because of the knowledge and the chords I gained from the PSR 520 that I was going to translate over to the PSR 740 if I'd kept it. I was able to translate that to the Triton. Not so much in an arranger way, but when I got the Triton and I was browsing through the sounds for the first time, I could not believe what I was hearing and experiencing. And the stuff I created were also incredible. For the first time ever in my life, I was able to lay down tracks one by one, just like I tried to do with the 520, because the 520 didn't have those features that I needed. The Triton had 16 full tracks and combination mode. And the dual ARPs of the Triton, wow. Just wow. Wow. Like seriously. Looking back, I realized how incredible the Triton was when I first got it, and how incredible it still is today. What took me to the next level thereafter was jazz band in high school. I literally jumped from a third grade level of music all the way up to college level in a matter of few months. I learned how to solo across the keyboard, because I was playing the piano in jazz band. I learned, I knew the chords, I just didn't know how to implement them. And for the following 5 years after I got the Triton, I saw I was taking composition lessons privately with a piano teacher who, rest in peace, he passed away sometime in 2015, 2016. When I met him, he was in his late 70s. Didn't look it at all, but he was in his late 70s and eventually retired. And when I looked him up a few years later, I saw his obituary and he had passed away. But I took 5 years of composition lessons with him, music theory, composition, etc. Combine that with jazz band, my music was never the same since. It's what you can hear. You can hear the culmination of that if you watch my video, my 7-minute piano playing video at the piano shop where I play this gorgeous Yamaha S6 Grand. That's not a keyboard, that's a piano, as you can obviously tell. So go watch that video, please. If you want to hear the culmination of what I had learned and picked up. And so the Triton laid down the foundation for everything I did musically. Everything. I was creating combinations, I was creating ARPs, I was sequencing. I didn't use program mode that much because I didn't need to. I was mostly in combination mode. So from here, what happens? I get to a point with the Triton. Instead of me getting tired of the keyboard in a year, like I did with the 320 or the 520, where I drastically, unbelievably outgrew the 520, and probably would have outgrown the 740, maybe not in 2 years, but I would say probably 3 years. I would have outgrown the 730, the 740, I mean. Well, I had the Triton for 7 years, from 2000 to 2007. And in 2005, actually, after about 5 years, I was really getting into it. And when I heard about the OASYS, there were a lot of leaks, a lot of rumors about the OASYS. Oh, puts me to tears. I'm not going to cry on camera, but the OASYS was really spectacular. The OASYS represented a dream that I never knew I had. If the Triton was as incredible as it was, when I read about the OASYS, I could not believe what I was reading. I couldn't believe how much reading about this instrument impacted me. I I I had already known about the K2600XS, Kurzweil. You know, I've known about flagship keyboards, the Trinity Pro X. I had a flagship instrument, the Triton. But mind you, the Triton wasn't a Trinity. It really wasn't. In terms of flagship status, the Trinity was far more of a flagship than the Triton was. Let's make that distinction very, very, very clear. The Trinity was more expensive to produce. The options were almost prohibitively expensive. What have you. The true predecessor to the OASYS was not the Triton. It was actually the Trinity. So knowing about these flagships after experiencing the Triton and, you know, and experiencing the Triton and playing these other flagships really helps me understand these keyboards better on the professional side and the arranger side, mind you, and the arranger side. So I'm reading about the OASYS and I'm like, there's no price yet, there's no picture yet. I'm just reading leaked preliminary information from Gear Junkies. Unbelievably, that website still exists 20 years later. It kind of blew my mind. I just saw it the other day, actually. And when I read about its specs, when I read about what it was, I was like, holy crap, this is my keyboard. I knew from the get-go, just by reading about it. I knew. And mind you, this was before NAMM 2005, where they actually officially unveiled it. They were not going to release anything about it until NAMM 2005. Finally, the day came where I got to see it online and the pictures. Sweetwater had a dedicated website for it and a forum specifically for this keyboard. Here I'm thinking it's going to be like $5,000-6,000 instrument. When I saw the $8,500 price tag for the 88 key, my jaws dropped to the floor. Let me make something very, very clear. I did not see this as overpriced. I did not judge its price tag. I judged it based on what I saw and what I read about. There was no keyboard in existence that compared to it. Spec wise, feature wise, never mind sound quality, because the sound quality of this thing was on another level. The arguments that ensued in the forums by trolls and negative people were almost fucking psychopathic. It pissed me off to no degree. I did not understand the criticism about this keyboard. Yes, it had a price tag. You know, and let me make something really fucking clear to some people here. If you're one of those people who sees a an $8,000 plus instrument as unpalatable, then the instrument wasn't built for you. It's not the instrument for you. Period. End of story. The OASYS was a dream for me. And when I saw the price tag, I saw a challenge that had to be met. How am I going to get this thing? I'm not working yet. I'm not making any money. We're not rich. We didn't have jack shit in terms of being able to afford what I wanted, at least. How was I going to get this thing? Well, long story short, after crying myself to sleep for almost 2 years, on one faithful day, I finally get one. Took out a loan. I got a job specifically so I could get it, but I got laid off at that job. And about a month or two later, I get one with the help of my dad, who graciously helped me to get one. That was May 17th of 2007. At 3 o'clock, we go to the store and we pick it up. Guitar Center, Hollywood. That's where they had it. And yeah, the keyboard was so big in the box. It was so big in the box that we actually had to have it delivered to the house. It wouldn't fit in the car. The box was too big. My dad was driving a Toyota Camry at the time, and the back wasn't wide enough. The seat wasn't. It wasn't going to fit. And so I get it, and it's been the foundation for my music from 2007 to around 2019. It became the foundation for my music. The Oasis represented something that I had never seen before. A future, a possibility that never existed before. For the first time ever, a company comes out with the real dream flagship instrument that did it all: sequencing, audio recording, 7 synth engines. Mind you, the Oasis came out with 3. When I got mine, I had LAC1 pre-installed, although I had to authorize it at the time. Authorization was $250. You know, I'm looking at it right now. The big giant 10-inch screen. This thing's a fucking beauty. And it's massive in size, which is more than I can say for Kronos. So I took everything I learned from the Triton and I applied it to the Oasis. And yeah, the Oasis had a few shortcomings. And I've mentioned those shortcomings too. Karma, there's no user ARPs, there's no user GEs, there's no drum track. My M3 versus Oasis video, yeah, go watch that if you haven't. That's a very important video you need to watch so you can understand what some of us Oasis users experienced when we got this instrument. Now, I'm not one of those people who sold off their Oasis, what have you. It's too good of an instrument to sell. There's nothing to replace it. Kronos is not even a replacement for the Oasis. It really isn't. What the Oasis represented was a future that was almost promised and then shattered because of the economy. So, why am I bringing all this up? Well, let's backtrack, okay? A little bit. The Oasis represented something to me that is near and dear to my heart musically. Hope, possibility, the future. I spent most of my childhood outgrowing the instruments I had owned. From the 320 to the 520, it would have been the 740. It took me 7 years to completely outgrow the Triton to the point where I couldn't even write at all. I grew tired of its sound set. I needed something new, something fresh. Even if it was just a color change, I just needed something different. I needed more keys. I needed 88 keys. You know, I started off on a keyboard, yes, but when I started playing piano, I wanted those piano keys. I love the piano. I really do. And as much as I loved these keyboards because they opened the door to music for me, I also needed something where I wouldn't keep running into walls with walls I couldn't break through because I wanted to compose, arrange, record, and compile complete pieces of music that I could not do with the keyboards I had. And every keyboard I had owned seemed to stop just short of where I wanted to go, except perhaps the PSR 8000. I think the PSR 8000 was the one keyboard that if I had gotten would have been just as impactful as the Triton in a way. But the Triton was impactful because of what it did for me. And I was obsessed with these keyboards. Not because they were expensive, but because they could do things my current instruments couldn't. Then again, it was all I could afford. I couldn't afford the freedom or the possibilities that the price tags of these keyboards had. And when I was younger, I was also told over and over and over again that, oh, that's for professionals. You're too young. You don't need something like that. Every time I heard it, just made me angry because deep down I knew exactly what I wanted. I did not want a fucking toy. I was 12 years old. I wanted the real fucking thing. I wanted the tools that would allow me to create. Now, when I got the Triton, it had finally arrived. I got the sequencer. I got the arpeggiators. You won't believe some of the stuff I can do on the Triton. Some of the stuff I've created on the Triton, especially the Triton Extreme. Man, as a lover of trance music, let me tell you, the Triton Extreme, oh God, it's no Axis virus, but holy mother of fucking pearls. What an unbelievable sound it had. The expounded sound set that the Triton Extreme gives me today compared to what I had with the Triton Classic Pro. Oh my God. And I have full 88 keys now. Game over. I play my Triton Extreme every day. I fucking love this instrument. I'm looking at it right now. Now that's a keyboard I've had for 7 years, and I'm nowhere near tired of it. You know, the 12 years that I had the OASYS when it was working. Oh my God. Every time I turned on the OASYS, that became my world. That sound, that screen, just sitting in front of one. There's still nothing like it today. I'm sorry. As wonderful as Kronos is and as Nautilus is, if you've got a knack for design, sit in front of an OASYS and tell me which one is better. The experience of the OASYS, every time I sat down playing it, was worth the price tag. There are certain patches on the OASYS alone that I would have gladly paid $8,000 for, because those are programs that I cannot get anywhere else except for Kronos and Nautilus. So when my creativity exploded after taking jazz band, learning composition, learning jazz, learning voicings, harmonies, arrangements, etc. And I applied that to my music and the sequences and the stuff I did on my Triton, and I translated that to the OASYS. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. When I outgrew the Triton, it was because I was changing. I was changing. My ideas were getting bigger. My expectations were getting bigger. I had a bigger vision. And the OASYS changed all that for me. I'd never been so excited about an instrument in my life, ever. And to this day, I'm still just as excited about it as I when I first got it. You know? And the crazy part about the OASYS was I met people connected to the project. I met Stephen Kay. I met Jerry Kowarski. I met Jack Hota, Peter Schwartz, Steve McNally, Rich Formidoni, Aaron Barnhart. There was another guy too, Peter Markovich. I know his name was Peter. He was a big dude too. NAMM 2005. I met Korg reps and certain people that were heavily involved with the OASYS and the development for the OASYS. I even met Stephen Kay himself and John Bowen. Yeah, the creator of the Solaris synthesizer. Yeah, I met him. I've even spoken to Dave Smith himself over the phone years ago, who was actually involved with the original OASYS project from 1993, the Blue Bomber. Yeah. See, I learned more about the OASYS than I ever thought possible. And the deeper I went, the more I realized something. That the OASYS wasn't just another workstation. It was the culmination of decades of ideas. Ideas that went all the way back to the M1, then the Trinity, then the Triton. The original OASYS, the very first one that came, that was never released. They made a couple of prototypes, and that was it. The Blue Bomber, that wasn't just a keyboard. That was a vision of what music technology could become. When I when my OASYS was delivered to me at home, I couldn't stop playing it. I cried when I received it because after years of chasing possibilities, years of limitations, and years of feeling like my creativity had outgrown my tools, I finally felt like I had arrived because the OASYS gave me something I hadn't felt in years. Real inspiration, the kind that keeps you up awake, that keeps you up at night, the kind that makes you rush to the instrument whenever you have an idea or you just want to play it. The kind that reminds you why you fell in love with music in the first place. See, that's why this channel exists. Not because I collect keyboards or I'm nostalgic or because I think older gear is better. This channel exists because I never stopped believing in that vision. The vision that instruments can be more than just products like they are now. The vision that technology can inspire creativity instead of limiting it. The vision that companies can still be bold enough to build the fucking future. Korg, what the fuck happened? Like, seriously, you had the future in your fucking hands and you dropped the ball. Korg is the only company that was bold enough to build something like an OASYS in the first fucking place. And the very first one they built was in 1993. Think about it for a minute. Why was it never released? Let me tell you why. Think of how big this vision was. Just think for a moment how massive this vision was. That your vision is so big and so ambitious that the current technology at the time wasn't up to the task. You were ahead of the technology available. They wanted to release it. They wanted to put it to the marketplace. And it would have cost $15,000 for a 76 key workstation. But because they were limited by current technologies, they were forced to spin it off. And what were the products that they made after that? That they spun it off to? The Korg Z1, the Korg Trinity, the Wave Drum, and the Prophecy solo synthesizer. So when I talk about the M1, the Trinity, the Triton, the OASYS, Kronos, Nautilus, Behringer keyboards, and everything else, I'm really talking about possibilities. I'm talking about futures we almost had. Futures that got lost and abandoned. And maybe futures we can still build. That's who I am. I'm the futurist who never stopped dreaming. Where companies stopped believing in workstations, I kept believing in them. But now it's reaching a point to where, unless I started this channel and said things nobody else is saying about the industry, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened. This is why I started Aurelius Unhinged. This is why I'm still fighting for the workstation today. This is why. You know, I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing lackluster creative keyboards. You know, instead of having proper workstation, we're seeing fucking Nord releasing a $6,000 keyboard, for God's sakes. Like, what the hell? Really? What can I say? This is who I am. And let me make something else really clear. I tried to jump on the DAW bandwagon. I did. Because in 2001, when I got my first computer, which was a Dell computer, I got Cubase SX. I'll never forget that either. Got my computer, got Cubase SX. We got my audio interface, which was an M Audio Delta 1010 LT, you know, professional audio card, what have you. I'll never forget how frustrated I was. I wanted a Mac, but I couldn't afford one. So I had to get what I could afford. I never really used it. I had too many problems with Windows. I didn't like Windows. I didn't trust it. It sucked. It really sucked. I used it a little bit here and there, what have you, but I didn't do much with it, if anything at all. So I stuck with the Triton. I kept sequencing on the Triton because that's what worked for me. I needed to get from point A to point B quickly. I didn't have the time nor the patience to set everything up in the way it needed to be set up. You know, that's the issue. That was the issue. And you know what? Let me be dead fucking honest with you. That's still an issue today. That's still an issue today. Software is just as fucking difficult to use as it was back then, albeit on much more powerful computers. They've become so feature packed and so crammed with so many things. From my perspective, I don't understand for the fucking life of me how so many people are using these softwares. I just don't. I'm a Mac user today. I have Logic, but I never fucking use it. Because the idea of making music on a fucking computer is ludicrous to me. It just is. Not everybody wants to make music on a fucking computer. I'm one of them. That's the other reason I'm fighting so hard for the workstation and why I started this channel. And I'm sick to death of seeing lackluster creative keyboards on the market. That includes Kronos and Nautilus. It really does. That includes the Phantom and the MPC. It does. Because the sequencers on the Kronos and Nautilus leave a lot to be desired. Like, where the fuck are the sequencer updates? That's what I'm fighting for. All it takes is one company, one person, one vision to change the entirety of things. That's all it takes. Steve Jobs proved that with Apple. The form factor of the laptop exists today because of the PowerBook 100. That form factor is still being used today. The entire world changed when the iPhone came out and the iPad came out. And now I'd argue it's changing once again because of MacBook Neo. A $600 Apple laptop, that is unheard of. Will I get a Neo? Probably. Will I run Logic on it? Probably not. I don't even know. I really don't know. I don't want to jump on the DAW bandwagon right now. If ever. Not with fucking subscription based, platforms. That includes Apple. That includes Apple. So that's the other reason I'm fighting so hard for this. Because companies need to start doubling down on the workstation before it's too late. Again, that's what this channel is all about. What can I say? This is who I am. And this is Aurelius Unhinged saying don't settle. I'm out.